Well, I've done a lot of things in my life. In about 2.5 weeks, I will complete 38 years of full-time Christian ministry. All right? Thank you. I have been a youth pastor I was officially designated as a youth pastor for 27 years. I have been a senior pastor for a short time. I have been a school teacher. I have been a driver's ed teacher. I have been a carpenter. I have been chief commodian. That's a fancy word for a janitor. I have been the principal of a school and a school administrator. For just a couple of months shy of 10 years, I was a missionary in Mexico and went all over Mexico, from the border clear down to Puerto Escondido and out through Querétaro and Zacatecas and Guanajuato and Irapuato and all those places. All right, so done a lot of things, but I didn't start out there. All right. I'm from a family of 6 kids. I have 3 older brothers and 1 older sister, and I have a younger sister. So I'm number 5 out of 6 kids. All right? Here's what most people don't know about me growing up. I grew up in a very happy family. We loved each other. My family accepted me 100%. I was Stevie, and there was no problems, there was no animosity, there was no making fun, anything like this. But all of my family are overachievers. I mean, they're so smart, they're crazy. They really are. They're all overachievers, and I was born with a handicap, a learning disability called dyslexia. All right? And my dyslexia affects everything I do. All right? I see numbers and letters backwards. If you put the letters B and D and P and Q and the numbers 9 and 6 in a straight line, and I look at them, they all look exactly the same. I cannot tell the difference by just looking at them. If you put them up on this screen and I looked at that, I would, and they say, what letters are those? And I would, whichever one came to my mind, I would say it. Now, over the years, I learned how to work with that. And so I would stand with my hands like this while I was talking to you, and if I could look at that line of letters, and I would take my finger and draw it on the palm of my hand, the stick goes down, the ball goes to the left at the bottom, that's a D. Okay, the ball goes to the right up at the top, and then the stick comes down, that's P. All right, it's a curved stick coming down with the ball on the left, that's nothing. All right. All right. But I could get every one of them right if I could take my finger and trace it in my hand, and you would never know that was happening. But if you held my hands down like this so I couldn't use them, I could not tell you the difference. It was a 100% guess. An M looks the same as a W. A 3 looks the same as an 8. All right? And words that have the similar letters or letter configurations are the same. I have found when I started learning Spanish that it is the same even in Spanish. Haber and hacer look exactly the same. The only way I can tell the difference is in context. The word oveja and viejo look exactly the same. I can't tell the difference except in context. All right? For that reason, when I was learning Spanish and talking with my tutor, I said that my mother was a sheep instead of she was old enough to retire. and my tutor's eyes got real big, and he said, "Mande?" And I said, "My mother-in-law's a sheep." "Mande? What?" And then it dawned on him what I was trying to say, and then he cracked up laughing. I said, "Oh, don't tell her that I called her a sheep. I was trying to say she was old." And then I said, on second thought, don't tell her I called her a sheep or old, either one. I'm in trouble either way. All right? Now, so I grew up having lots of problems academically. All right? Now, in addition to that, I stuttered really, really, really bad. I mean, it was painful to try to hear me talk. Now, I blame all of that on my brothers and sisters. They were so smart and they talked so much, and I'm saying there, but I couldn't get a word in edgewise. The only way I could talk was tape their mouths shut. All right? And so I blame that on them, but it was painful to hear me try to talk, and I would try to get it out, and it would take so long for me to say it and people were trying to help me, but they weren't helping because I had to say it. All right? Another thing is I had an awful speech impediment. I got my tongue too far forward, and I say, "I'm Stevie Stetler, and I'm so happy that I'm here with you today, and it's something very special." All right? And if you listen when I talk, I still have hard time saying S's and things like that. I sort of whistle when I say it. All right? Now, we were from a poor family. We were a big family. We were a happy family, but we were a poor family. All right? And we didn't have money for therapy and even for diagnostic testing and that kind of thing. And, as a society, we put a lot of emphasis on perfection. All right? So the models that you see in magazines, they're perfect. Or at least we think they're perfect. But if you knew how many $1,000s it took to get that model to look like she or he looks like, so we could have a perfect imitation of something that wasn't real, to convince you that that's what you need to be in order to be successful, you would be blown away. They're not perfect. And it is all kinds of artificial adaptations that creates that image. And yet we present it, and all of us say, "I want to be like that." And for some reason, in our minds, if we feel like we can't be like that, then we're less than what we ought to be. All right? Now tell me, all right? This is an interactive thing. I've been a school teacher for years. Ma'am, if you go to the store, you go to Walmart, and you go to the fruit and produce department, and you're going to buy bananas or apples, do you buy the ones that are all bruised up and spotted? No. No. We want the ones that are perfect. All right? We put those that are banged up and bruised over here on a shelf, and we mark them down 50% off because they're less than perfect. Am I right? All right? Sir, if you go to Walmart and you're going to buy canned goods, do you buy the ones that are all smashed and squished? No. No. No, you want the ones that look perfect. We take those dented ones, those twisted ones, those deformed ones, and we put them over on a rack and mark them down discounted because they're less than perfect. Unfortunately, we do the same thing with people. They're not smart. They're from the wrong neighborhood. Their daddy's a drunk. They don't know who their mom is. Oh, they've been adopted. You should know what I know about this person. And so suddenly we're marking it down 50% off because they're less than perfect. Let me tell you something from my heart. Will you listen to me? If God did business that way, I would be sitting on a shelf in the back room with a discount tag because I was less, and I am less than perfect. But that's not how God works. You see, God saw me, and God loved me, and God had a plan for me that was special and unique just for me. Just for me. It had my name all over it. Now, unfortunately, as is normal with most of us, we buy into that cultural thing that says, if you're less than perfect, there's something wrong with you. All right? And so as I came up, let me tell you a little bit about my family. My oldest brother has 3 bachelor's degrees, almost a 4th bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. Now, part of that was not because he was so smart. A good part of that was because he couldn't find a woman that would marry him, so he kept going to school looking for another one. That's closer to truth than he wants to admit. All right? All of my family, my mom, my dad, all of my brothers, my wife, my son, my daughter, every single one of them were valedictorian of their class. They were the smartest person in their class, every one of them. And I graduated. Thank God. All right? And I mean that. I mean that sincerely. All right? So, I mean, they were just gifted. They were just gifted in every way. My daughter is scary smart. She just blows me away. When she graduated from high school, her grade point average from kindergarten to high school was 99.998. That means there might have been one paper that wasn't 100. She's not 30 yet, has her own business. She builds websites and runs Media Sense Solutions. She's gifted. My wife, my son, all of my brothers, we have a truckload of degrees, masters and doctorates. All right? They're talented people. And here I come along and I stutter so bad I can't communicate. And if I get it out, my lisp is so heavy that you can't understand me. And I cannot even read through the 2nd grade. And so everyone tells me that I'm retarded. All right? And I felt less than perfect because I was. But I wasn't less of a person. I wasn't any more limited in my abilities than anyone else. They were just in different areas. But because of our society and the way we are raised to think, I really, really struggle with that. Now, my brothers and sisters did not mistreat me. We got along wonderfully. But I had this hang up down on the inside because to me, that was the level I had to reach to be successful. And mentally and emotionally and physically, I could not ever hit that plateau. I tried. I tried all the way through elementary school and all the way through high school and all the way through college. And my wife and I, we've been married 35 years. And for the first half of our marriage, I was still trying to be like my brothers. My brother Dan is my favorite preacher all time. He can preach like a house of fire, and it just flows out of him. It's the God-given ability that very few people have, and he can just say what needs to say and nail it every time. and I wanted to preach like Dan. And God knows that I tried. I worked as his associate pastor for 3.5 years. And I'd come home so discouraged, I'd tell my wife, I said, I can't do this. I'm going to quit. I fall flat on my face every single time. Was the problem that God didn't want me to preach? No. The problem was I was trying to fit into someone else's mold. I was trying to be something that God never intended me to be. And it didn't work. I never got to that level. Because that's not who I am. That's not who God made me to be. My brother David is incredibly musical. You give him an instrument he's never seen before, and he can sit there and figure it out. Give him 10 minutes and he's playing a song. It just comes natural. It's a gift that he has. And I want to be that kind of musician. He's got a high, clear tenor voice, and I tried to sing like him, and my voice would crack, and I never could. All right? I took 9.5 years of piano lessons. I really did. I was still taking piano lessons in college, long after I knew this was never going to work, but I was still trying. Not because I wanted to necessarily, but I felt like maybe that would help me to get to David's level. And also because my mom wanted me to take piano lessons. But I couldn't play chopsticks today. Because as much as I like music, God didn't create me to make music like that. My brother Darrell's daddy. He's one of the smartest, most analytical people I know. Brilliant, organized. He would sit there and figure things out. He was always sort of the geek. I remember the time that he broke his glasses right here. Until he had surgery, he had glasses that looked like pop bottles. They were really strong. And he broke them. He couldn't see anything this far in front of his face without them. And he broke them, and so I helped him use super glue and put it back together. And we said, that we need a lot on that if that's going to hold. And so we put it on there and squeezed it together till it was oozing out all around. And then he said, I wonder how long this has to set up. And before I could stop him, he put it on his face to do that. And glued those glasses right there. I said, here, let me help you. Yeah! He had a big old groove right there for a long time. And there was hair and skin. Now, he was also the one he was always figuring something out. And when I was like 5 years old, all of us boys and my dad and his dad and my Uncle Monty were all in the barn. And we had been oiling steel traps. Because my uncle and another guy ran a trap line, and they would trap animals and skin them out and sell the pelts. All right, that's not so popular anymore, but back in those days it was very common. And so you would open these up that had like teeth on them and hold them like this, and you had this little dial that you'd spin around on a pressure plate, and it would hold it open. And then when the animal came and touched that little dial, it would trip that pressure plate, and those things would snap shut on it. And my uncles were teasing we boys, and my one uncle said, well, man, when I was younger, he said, we'd get these well oiled and all this, and I would trip that thing with my nose. And my brother Darrell's sitting there thinking. And the next thing we knew, he just goes face diving right on that. My Uncle Monty was standing right there, and he reached out, no! And Darrell's nose just grazed that little disc and tripped that thing. And it slapped just in front of his face. Now, he was smart, but he wasn't too smart. But you could see his mind working. We grew up, all four of us boys, we lived in a little shotgun house in Cincinnati. We had 3 rooms in a row downstairs and 3 rooms in a row upstairs. So we had kitchen, dining room, and living room. We had mom and dad's bedroom, my sister's bedroom, and we boys' bedroom out in front. All four of us lived in the same room. We had a double bed in this corner and a dresser for these two in this corner. We had a double bed in this corner and a dresser in this corner for these two. Dan and David slept here. Darrell and I slept here. We had this dresser that had two big drawers at the bottom, and at top we had two half drawers. And so each of us had a drawer for our clothes. And then this top drawer was the only sacred place in the house that belonged to you. It was our junk drawer, all right? And we could put anything we wanted in there, and no one was allowed to get into it, all right? That was our private thing. So, guys, it's a junk drawer. What do you put in a junk drawer? You put junk. All right? I had a broken top. I had some bits of string. I had some pretty rocks that I had found. I found a car with a wheel broke off, but the rest of it was really cool, so I had it in there. I had junk in my junk drawer. And if I needed something, I was just, oh, there it is, and I'd dump everything back in and shut it. One day, I went up to our room, and no one else was in there. And I was in my junk drawer, or I wasn't in it. I was just standing there looking at it, You'll get it later. I was there, and I kept looking over at Darrell's junk drawer. And there was no one else there. So I come over here, and I wanted to see. So I opened his junk drawer. You know what that idiot did? He organized his junk. It was color-coded. He had these things set up in order of size and height. I mean, any retard knew that wasn't the way, and I just messed it up. Made me so angry, I messed it up and shut it. I thought maybe I could be like Darrell. That was just a fleeting thing. There was no way. That didn't last long at all. All of them are leaders. All of them are intelligent. They have been in academics. They have been pastors. All three of them are pastors. Lots of people. I mean, they're important people in our movement. And I thought, maybe I can be like them. To make things worse, we lived on a private college campus. My father was a professor. And everyone knew my older brothers. And I'm little Stevie Stetler. And they would say, oh, Stevie, aren't you so sweet? And I'd say, no, I'm not sweet. And then they weren't being mean. They weren't being mean. It was as normal as breathing. All of my brothers and my sister had set the way. And so they would talk about academics, and they said, Stevie, are you going to be valedictorian like them? And I said, I want to, but I knew I couldn't. And in my heart, I was back on the damaged shelf, marked half off. Because I was less than perfect. My brothers sang and traveled and made records. Those of you that are old enough to know what those are all about, they are coming back, They said, can you sing like your brothers? I want to. But I knew I couldn't. When I got a little older, can you preach like your brothers? Are you a teacher like your brothers? I want to be. God knows I want to be. I'm trying to get to that level. I'm working my tail end off everywhere way I can to try to hit that platform because I want to succeed. I want to be what everyone expects me to be and what I expect myself to be. But I can't reach that level. My sister Frances is a year and a week older than I said that how she used to, I was a runt and she was normal size, and she would chase me around and tackle me and beat me with her hairbrush and make me promise all kinds of things, and I would do it just to get her off of me. And she's so smart, she's an idiot, for real. She has She has two bachelor's degrees. She has 3 master's degrees, and she's in her final course for her PhD. She loves study. She's one of the most outstanding teachers I have ever encountered. She is absolutely brilliant, is over a whole division of a college in Pennsylvania. She is just absolutely brilliant. Can you be like Frances? I would love to be, but I can't. I remember there were a couple of times when she and I were in the same class, and we were there, and she came in and said, "Come on, Steve, let's go do whatever." And I said, "No, friend, we can't. I've got to study for that test tomorrow." She said, "What test?" I said, "You know, they said it's on Friday, and that's tomorrow." And she said, "Oh, yeah, right." She said, "Oh, let me see your book." She grabbed it and she looked through. "Yeah, I got it. Okay, no problem. Okay, come on, let's go." I said, "No, I got to study." And I'd spend 3 or 4 hours studying for that same test that she spent 30 seconds. She'd go in, she'd be first or second done, and I'd say, "How'd you do?" She said, "Oh, yeah, there was one question gave me a problem. And I'm the last one done." And she said, "How'd you do?" I said, "I'm scared to death I flunked." It wasn't that I didn't try. It wasn't that I didn't apply myself, guys. I studied hard. I studied way more than she did. I made lists. I memorized. I could quote pages of things if I didn't have to take it as a test. But when I hit that test thing, for some reason, my mind would go blank. And I would come and we'd get our papers back, and she would make a 97, 98. And I'd make a 65 or a 70. And I was glad to get a 65 or 70. At least I passed. But I could never hit that level. My younger sister is brilliant as well and very talented. She has been a managing person in various corporations. Her last job that she quit to take care of my mom and dad when they had cancer and dementia. She was a assistant shift manager for the IRS in small business claims. She was over about 125 people. All the rest of us are preachers and teachers in Christian schools, and so I always told people that 5 of us work for God and 1 works for the devil. That's my sister. But she was good. They wanted to move her up to a regional assistant manager of the whole facility. They said it's a $35,000 a year raise. She said, "I don't want it. I don't want those headaches. I want to be on the phone talking to people and solving problems." And so she stayed where she was, but they bumped her up until she and they said, "The sky's the limit. You can be anything you want to be in the IRS." All right. And here's Stevie. I'm stuttering. I can't read. I struggle to pass. When I was in grade school, I went to a private Christian, quote unquote, school. There was a teacher there that we were a big family, and the school helped us some on our bill because there was 6 of us, and for some reason this teacher didn't like us. But all of my brothers and my older sister were smart enough that she couldn't do anything. But when I came along, she realized that I was a prime target. So when I got in her class, she knew I stuttered. She knew I couldn't read. And yet every day, it was like 2 or 3 times a week when we had reading class, she would call me out by name and bring me to the front. And I would have to stand in front of the class and try to read. And I would stutter, and I would stammer, and I couldn't make out the words. I didn't know them, and so I would say things that were nonsensical. And the kids would laugh, and the teacher would laugh, And it would end up with me bursting into tears, and I would run back to my seat and put my head down and bawl. And the teacher would say, "Now, Stevie, he thinks he's old enough to be in this class, and he can't even read." And everyone would laugh. And she'd say, "We shouldn't be too hard on Stevie. He's retarded." I remember that day. And we rode to school on a little bus. And I ran out, it was a little van, and I ran out and sat right by the door. So when we got to our house, I would be the first one off. And we pulled up in front of our house on Ringgold Street in Cincinnati, and I opened the door, and I ran up the steps and up the walk and into the house. And when I hit the door, I'm saying, "Mom, Mom." She said, "I'm up here, Stevie." And I ran upstairs. She's sitting on the floor in my sister's room and has a couple of big cookie tins that she kept sewing notions, buttons and snaps and that kind of stuff in. And she had them spread out and was sorting them. And I ran up and I threw myself in her arms and said, "Mom, I'm not retarded. I know I'm not retarded. I can do this stuff. I just can't do it like they do it. But Mommy, I'm not retarded, am I?" And my mom just wrapped me in her arms and began to bawl. She said, "No, Stevie, you're not retarded. You're not retarded at all. You see, God made you special. He made you different. But He made you just like He wants you to be. And He's got a job for you that no one else can do. You're not retarded, son." Sorry. I remember the day that because I had problems at school, I got real reclusive, and the worst place was to get caught in the bathroom because no teachers were in there, but there would be kids there, and they'd be mean and they'd be ugly. Let me just tell you something, kids. Will you listen to me? Don't ever be a bully. Don't ever be a bully. Let me tell you something, adults. We adults can be as big a bullies as anyone else. We manipulate people by the things we say. Please don't be a bully. It hurts. I mean, it really hurts. I'm 58 years old. 58 years old, and every time I tell this story, I have nightmares. And I'll wake up and I hear the kids laughing. And I can tell you which kid is sitting in which position in the room. I remember all their names. I can hear my teacher saying, "Stevie's retarded." Don't be a bully. I remember because I shied away from the bathroom, I developed a really serious bladder infection. And I went to the doctor. My mom took me to the doctor, and he gave me medicine, and he said, "Now, Stevie, this medicine, you're going to have to drink lots of water, and this medicine is designed to force you to go to the bathroom. We need to flush that all out of your system." And I said, "Okay." And so he said, "Now, I'm going to write a note to your teacher, and it says that you need to drink water real often, and that you're going to have to go to the bathroom. And this should be okay. She should take this doctor's note and let you do that." So I took it to school and gave it to my teacher. And she said, "Why, sure, Stevie. I understand. You can go get a drink anytime you want to go get a drink." And that was pretty cool. You see, I was the strange one, and everyone laughed. But suddenly I could go get a drink anytime I wanted, and they couldn't. So I go get a drink. Did I abuse it? Well, of course I abused it. I was in second grade, for crying out loud. I went to get a drink all the time. I sort of enjoyed that. But then I had to go to the bathroom. So I went up, I said, "Teacher, I got to go to the bathroom." She said, "Now, Stevie, you know the rules of this class. You can't go to the bathroom anytime except on break." I said, "But teacher, I got a note from the doctor." "Well, Stevie, I have you know that that doctor is not the teacher of this class. I am. And I said you can't go to the bathroom." "But teacher, I got to go." "Well, I'm sorry, Stevie, you're just going to have to wait until break time." So I went, and then I said, "Teacher, I got to go." "No, Stevie, you can't go," very publicly. But I did have to go. And I did. Right there in my seat, I peed my pants. And she was waiting for me. As soon as it happened, I mean instantly, she got this little grin on her face. She said, "Stevie, you come up to the front of the class." And I came up, and she made me stand like this and turn around and show everyone that my pants were wet. And she said, "And Stevie says that he's a big boy." Now, it wasn't all one-sided. My uncle died down in North Carolina. We went to the funeral, and they have the prettiest red dirt down there. And so I decided that I wanted to bring some of that back, and I got a little baby food jar, and I broke it up into little granules and put it in that baby food jar and brought it back. And then an idea popped into my mind. You see, I was slow in some ways, but I wasn't stupid. And I thought, we had show and tell at school. And so on Friday, when it was show and tell day, I brought my baby food jar of North Carolina mud. But the story I told was that I had a smart uncle that was an inventor. That was when freeze-dried coffee was coming in. And I said, "My uncle made this coffee, and you actually can just eat it like candy. You don't even have to put it in." And he gave me a little bit of it, and if you would like, I would let you sample it. And they all sampled it. In fact, I talked my teacher into having a second one. And then I put the lid back on and went and sat in my seat, the retarded one. And I enjoyed the rest of the day. In fact, the rest of the day, my teacher had this funny orange line right here around her teeth. I wasn't a retarded one. I didn't eat dirt. About a couple of weeks after I ran home and my mom said, "No, Stevie, you're not retarded," I walked in on her. I ran up in the house and, Mom, and she was running the vacuum cleaner in her room. "Mom!" And I come flying in the door, and I suddenly skid to a stop because she is vacuuming the floor, and she has her head up like this, and tears are running down her face. And this is what I hear her say, "Oh, God, my Stevie's in trouble. We don't have money for doctors and therapy, but you've got to help me know how to help my Stevie." And God gave my mother a plan. And for the next 2.5 years, while she stood at the stove fixing meals for 8 people in our family, I sat in a little chair beside it, and I had to enunciate every word. I had to pronounce things. I had to read and form the words in an exaggerated manner. And slowly but surely my stuttering went away, and my speech impediment went away, and I learned to read. This week, I got here on Wednesday, and since Wednesday, I've finished 2 books. I'm halfway through a 3rd book. On my way up here, I stopped at a flea market and bought an old Spanish grammar book, and I'm halfway through that. Now I read on an average of 3.5 books a week. And it's all because my mother knew a God that created me, and he knew how to fix what was wrong with me. Was it easy? No. But even though I learned to read, I still had problems because I was trying to reach this shelf that in my mind represented success and acceptance. I tried to preach like Dan and sing like Dave and be organized and all like Darrell and athletic like all of them and be like Francis and Trelinda, my younger sister. And I never have reached that level. I was married. We had been married for several years. My wife was in her master's degree program at the University of Cincinnati. She was getting her master's in special education. She works in the public school 10 minutes from the border. She's a certified bilingual instructor. And she works with kids between the ages of 3 and 5. She has 12, just babies, but all of them are profoundly handicapped. She was studying, she was writing a paper. I was sitting at the kitchen table typing another paper that she had to present. And she said, "Steve, this sounds like you." And she began to talk about problems that I struggled with. And I said, "Let me tell you what I struggle with." And so I did. She said, "Have you read this book?" And I said, "No." She said, "What you're telling me is almost word from word on my postgraduate textbook." And I said, "What do they call it?" She said, "They call it dyslexia." I was 27 years old, and I finally found out what was wrong with me. God had helped me to overcome a lot of it. And I said, "Well, what do they do for it?" And she began to tell me. And what they told her to do, and the exercises they gave, and the recitations that you were supposed to, and the methods of working through it were almost word for word what my mother made me do from the list that God had given to her. In fact, when my mother died 3 or 4 years ago, I was going through her things, and I found that original list, and I have it in my files at home. And I get it out and I begin to cry, thanking God for a mother that loved me enough to hold on and stand in and hang on for me. But also thanking God that I serve a God that loves me enough to reach down in my difficulty and help me be what I can be. We had moved to Alabama. I was teaching in a school. God asked me to do that. I said, I'm respectful in the things of God, but it caught me so by surprise when God said he wanted me to be a school teacher. The first words out of my mouth is, "Have you lost your mind?" Now I don't recommend you talk to God that way. That was just my shocked response. And I've been a school teacher for years. Last year I traveled from South Texas to Cincinnati to teach at a college, even a postgraduate class online. The one that couldn't read, the one that everyone said was retarded. But God began to talk to me. I was frustrated. I was doing everything I knew how to do to be faithful, to work for God. My heart wanted to be what God wanted me to be, but I didn't know how to get to that level. And he said, "Steve, you and I got to talk." I said, great, I'm ready. I said, I'm so frustrated. I want to do your will, God, but I can't seem to get it done. And he said, Steve, he said, you're going about it all wrong. Well, Lord, I try to preach like Dan. He said, I don't need you to preach like Dan. Dan's doing a good job for himself. He is doing exactly what I created him to do. I don't need you to be like Dan. Well, what about David? I can't. He said, David does a wonderful job for himself. I don't need you to be another David. And Darrell, no, I don't need you to be Darrell. And I don't need you to be Francis. And I don't need you to be Trelinda. I have all of them. And they're doing exactly what I created them to do. The only one I don't have is Steve. And I can't use you like I created you to be, because you're spending all of your energies trying to be like someone else that you will never be. Now, I don't have a lot of the natural gifts that my brothers do, but they don't have a lot of the natural gifts that I do. God made me in such a way that I can look at a piece of furniture and say, yeah, I can build that. And I can go into a wood shop and reproduce it without drawings and plans. I have built buildings all over. I have built churches. I built all kinds of buildings, and no one ever taught me how to build. It just comes natural. Something was broken, and I would look at it and play with it and figure it out. How did you do that? I don't know. I just messed around with it. Now it's working. My brothers can't do that. I stopped going to their house on vacation. They'd have this long, you need to put a new screen door on, you need to tune up the cars, you got to paint the house, I need a new roof. And I'd work harder on vacation. I told them, I said, I'm not coming to your house on vacation anymore. But Steve, we can't do that. God said, Steve, I have all of them, but you won't trust me with yourself. And then he said something that you need to hear, every one of you. Are you listening? He said, Steve, you're not a mistake. I made you exactly like you are. My hands created you just as much as they created Dan and David and Darrell and Francis and Trelinda. I made you like you are because I have a job for you to do that no one else can do. You see, life's like a puzzle, and all of us have a piece. And what God needs for us to do is to fit our piece in so the picture's complete. He said, I have people that are waiting for you. I have designed you on purpose so you can help these kids and young people that are broken just like you and feel like they're on the discount shelf because they're less than perfect. And I have made you and formed you and put you in this family to train you to meet their needs and show them the love and compassion that they need. I need you to be a school teacher. I need you to be a youth worker. And I've spent all of my adult life doing that. Today, there's at least 4 dozen that I can name that are in full-time Christian service, and they were as broken as I was. But when I released myself to God and allowed him to help me to be all that I could be and grow up into his plan and become the man that he formed me to be, then he gave me the keys that unlocks the doors to other kids and young people that are struggling just like I was. I'm not a mistake. I was fearfully and wonderfully made, broken, so that God could flow through this broken channel and reach others that are broken, to help them to realize the beauty that we all are creatures made by the hands of God. Whoever you are, whatever your circumstances, God has put you in this place on this earth for this time to be someone that makes a difference. Let me ask you, are you willing to take your piece and put it in the picture so that it's complete? Amen. Oh, but Brother Steve, you don't know what that'll cost. Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. Oh, but Brother Steve, people will laugh. They might. Prove them wrong. Show them what grace looks like in shoe leather. Just launch yourself into the arms of God and trust Him. He'll never let you down. He'll do something on the inside that gives you the ability to stand, and then He'll put you out into a hurt and broken world and lead you to the ones that are broken just like you are, because you have the ability to help and make a difference in their world. Don't let anyone suffer that you can help, but step into their world and unlock their gate and open the doors and set them free by God's grace. Father, oh Father, oh Father, we belong to you. We're your creation. You made us just like we need to be. And we praise you. Lord, our pot might be cracked, but it's cracked so that the light of love and of grace can show through the broken parts and illuminate a broken world. Oh God, we're here today. We're a bunch of misfits. We're all broken in some manner or another. But if we know the cry of our heart, it's, Lord, you can have us. Make us what you want us to be, and then help us to find those ones that are hurting just like we are, and help us to make a difference in this day by the grace of God. We pray.